Topo Athletic is committed to lifelong health and better movement. Topo builds running shoes for those who get out there every day regardless of weather, speed, energy, or mood. Their distinctive fit and feel combines instinctive human movement with modern performance and lightweight comfort to help you keep going, keep trying, and keep moving. Discover the Topo difference and step into a run experience unlike any other.
There he is. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Jason Hardrath. Jason, how's it going? Thanks for taking the time.
Oh, great to be here. Thanks. It's I've been excited for this for a while. I'm glad we got it on the calendar and made it work.
Yeah, same here. Same here. I'm super stoked for this. And before we dive into anything else, I wanted to just start with jump right into the icebreaker question. And depending on this, I'm either going to leave this chat and go away, and Jason's going to jump on, or or I'm gonna interview you the rest of the way. So are you ready for this question?
I'm ready. Fire away.
All right, man. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
Ooh, great question. My specific answer to it is if it's fresh pineapple, yes. If it's canned pineapple, absolutely no.
Oh man, I actually love that answer. I'm gonna go with Team Ohm on that one. I'm a pineapple on pizza guy. Jason is a hardcore New Yorker, so he's against the pineapple on pizza. So I guess we're continuing this interview the rest of the way, but I really like that answer, man. That's like the most, I like that it's not a yay or nay answer. It's like it depends on the pineapple.
It matters. I'm sorry, it matters.
It so matters, man. So before we dive into kind of the nitty-gritty of the story and everything, one of the first things I saw on your Instagram when we connected was this hashtag that you have there, and it really spoke to me because it's something that I believe in as well. It was aim high and lift others. So tell me about what that means to you and just your philosophy on that.
Oh man, I mean, it goes way back. I mean, where to even start? Even as a little kid, I wasn't the kid that made fun of, say, the person in class that was scared to catch a football. I was the kid who would like stay after school, and if I knew how to catch football or whatever the skill was, I would like help that kid to where they could play catch with me. And so teaching and learning for the sake of teaching, I always say now, you can only teach what you become. You can only pass it on if you've learned it yourself. And so it's a two-part wisdom that I kind of came to the words of it during the Journey to 100 tour when the Journey to 100 film launched, which is still available on YouTube if people here haven't seen it. And as I was touring with the film, I had asked myself the question, it's like, okay, why am I, I know why I did the records. I know why I broke the FKTs. I know why I pursued that as a lifestyle. I love being in the outdoors. I love pushing myself in high-risk terrain. I love being in those spaces. But then when I was out just talking to people about it, I'm like, okay, why am I here? I don't just want to be some guy bragging about some cool thing I did. And over the course of the film tour, I came to the conclusion that's like, okay, I've aimed high. I've done some big things, pursued stuff myself, and now this is the part of it where I bring back, to relate it to the hero's journey. I went out and slayed my dragons, went out and faced my fears, went out and accomplished my big things that I'm wired to go do. And now it's my time to bring the gold back to the village, to bring some inspiration back, to speak into the space where people's dreams live. And that's exactly what happened during the film tour. People would come up after the show and after the Q&A, and they would have questions like, oh, I have this idea about going and doing this or that in the mountains, and I've been hesitant about it. I'd be like, oh, you should look into this, this, and that, and then go for it. And being able to give that to people and sort of nudge them over the edge to go try a new experience and go attempt something that they were hesitant on. And to me, that's what Aim High, Lift Others is about. It's that you pursue the big things for yourself, because we all need that growth, because otherwise, what do you have to offer others? What do you have that makes others want to listen to you? And then you immediately turn around and you go about helping as many as you can. And maybe that's a small group of people, or maybe that's a huge group of people. Maybe it's your local running club. Maybe it's getting on a stage and talking to 200 people. It's different for all of us, but all of us have the ability to go out and pursue something and then turn around and give back. And to me, that's what that hashtag really means.
Yeah, I really love that, man. Especially just about like, I really like the analogy about like just, you know, you slayed your dragon and now you're bringing gold to the village. You know, I've always believed in, you know, like I've done 100-mile races and 200-mile races, and I've always believed in like just trying to bring out the best in others and lifting other people up. And so it's really cool to hear that. Actually, to hear it from someone else's perspective is really inspiring to me. So yeah, thank you for that. We actually have, you know, I wanted to go into the 100 FKTs, but we actually have a question here from Colin AK saying, Jason Hardrath, to your knowledge, has anybody repeated the Yosemite picnic? And that's something we can get into after Jason answers this question.
Yeah. So you want me to jump right into the Yosemite picnic right now?
Yeah, by all means, let's go for it.
Yeah, no, I love that effort. So yeah, for those who aren't aware of what the Yosemite picnic is, you have to back up. And the original picnic was founded on Grand Teton by David Gonzalez. And the reason it's called a picnic is it was kind of a humorous name he gave an incredibly hard undertaking, where it was this human-powered effort where you started in Jackson Hole and you biked to Jenny Lake, you swam right through the middle of Jenny Lake, and then you summited Grand Teton, which involves some fifth class free soloing, and then you come all the way back down, swim back through the middle of the lake to your bike with the shaky legs coming off the mountain and all those miles, and then you bike all the way back to town. And I just fell in love coming from triathlon roots before I got into this mountain stuff and FKTs and the whole journey to 100 before my car accident. I was into Ironman triathlon, and so I had that skill set and I loved it. I pursued it passionately. So to then be able to bring that, to see David Gonzalez's creation and to go, wait a minute, this is something that can absolutely be aesthetically recreated other places to create meaningful outdoor pursuits for people that mix multiple skills. And I love things like that unlock a new experience. And so I saw this vision. I had a buddy reach out and he had a different idea, just like a really big bike from down in Bishop. And I was like, no, we need to fit the whole thing into the Yosemite Park, and it needs to become the Yosemite picnic. Like, this is an iconic place. We need to make sure this route is right. And so instead we started at the foot of El Cap, biked up 6,000 feet and 43 miles to Tenaya Lake, which is just an iconic lake swim. I mean, you've just got domes and granite all around you. You don't even have to like sight forward because you have so many features in the rock around you. You can just tell where you're swimming by just doing your normal side breathing. It's just beautiful, just phenomenal. So you swim right through the middle of Jenny Lake lengthways, and then you hop out and you do this infamous moderate rock climbing link up of Tenaya Peak, Mathis Crest, and the super iconic Cathedral Peak. And so you do all three of those, which involves some like 5-7 rock climbing on Mathis Crest. And then you come all the way back down to the lake. And again, you swim lengthwise, smack dab through the middle of the lake, back to your bike. And you bomb all that downhill, back down to the foot of El Cap and stop the timer as you cross the bridge under the foot of El Cap. And so it makes for a 100-mile multi-sport day that involves some considerable miles of free soloing on fifth-class rock terrain. The cool part about the effort is when Ryan Tates and I finished it, Hans Florian, kind of an icon of Yosemite, right? He's known for his speed records on the nose and the most climbs of the nose ever. He reached out and he's like, oh man, I wish I'd thought of that. And so it's like, oh, someone like that thinks what we added is like super cool. So yeah, to bring all that around to answer the question, as far as I know, no one has actually attempted. Plenty of people have reached out and asked me questions and said that they want to, but as far as I'm aware, no one has made an actual attempt on the Yosemite picnic yet.
And for those of you who want to know where you can watch a video of it, Jason does have a YouTube channel, which we'll ask him to plug in again before the end of the show. And there's a very awesome video with some of the footage from it, and it's just absolutely incredible. Highly recommend. Um, we have a question from Thomas Boyle, and I don't know if you're at liberty to say this yet because you're trying to like build a suspense up, but what's the next picnic triathlon you're cooking up, Jason?
I mean, I've got a few different multi-sport dreams on the horizon. A lot of them involve repeating existing ones. I want to take a crack at the Grand Teton picnic. It's an icon, and I want to see if I could actually go after the standing record on it. It would be cool to make a real attempt on that. I want to make an attempt on the Badwater to Whitney duathlon record, starting from the lowest point in the USA to the highest point in the 48 states of the USA. Badwater to Whitney. So those are just two examples of things that are calling my name. And then I have a whole bunch that are rattling around inside my head that I want to create. But yeah, I'm not going to say those out loud yet.
I love that. Got to keep them on their toes, man. So I want to kind of like go back a little bit now, because this is such an integral part of your story, and you did bring it up already, but the car crash. So one of the things that I've, heard about you and, seen on your website and doing my research is that, you've been an athlete your whole life. And you described this car crash as like your first, like your challenge. And so I wanted to, I want to dive into the car crash, but I also want to sort of know how it changed your perspective as an athlete, because you've had such a long journey, and what kind of what the recovery was like, and just how it changed your mindset.
Oh man, we don't have enough time to unpack this all the way. But to take a quick flyover, a quick crack at it. What sport has always been about for me is pursuing that highest, next, most difficult challenge, the biggest possible thing I thought I could take on and succeed at. That's what running was for me in middle school and in high school, and then on to making it onto a college team. It was why I chose to bike across the United States when I graduated university. It was why I immediately, once I realized I was pretty decent at biking and kind of liked it, it's like, well, even though I can't swim to save my life, I'm going to sign up for a full Ironman right now. Because if I can do these two, then I can force myself to learn how to swim. I'll figure it out. And so even when I was only able to like doggy paddle my way through three lengths of a pool, I signed up for a full Ironman. And then I pursued that and learned and refined and honed the skills until I qualified for a couple world championships. So it was always finding and refining and pursuing that next higher thing. And so that remained the same. But when I went out that window in the rollover accident, and it was pretty bad, I should have died, right? Obviously, statistically, rollover car accident, vehicle ejections, the person dies on impact. And so, yeah, I should have been dead. 9 broken ribs, collapsed lung, internal contusions, completely shredded my ACL and LCL of my right knee and had to have them surgically repaired and replaced. Broke my shoulder in 2 places. I might have missed a few things, but that gets the gist. I was pretty messed up. And so, I mean, I'd had some other reasonable learning experiences prior in life, but nothing on the scale of this. And so in the moment, I remember bringing up to my doctor, like, hey, I love triathlon, I love running. And he was just like, yeah, you're going to let that part of your life go probably. And then walked out of the room to go see his next patient. And I remember my spirits like sinking in that moment. And then just being like, no, he doesn't know how hard I'm willing to hurt to move toward what I want to move toward. He doesn't know how excruciatingly I'm willing to lean into workout after workout, session after session, day after day, to grind my way toward what I want. And that's something, right, we do learn from sport. You learn that mindset of, I'm going to lean into more pain now and it's going to build me a success in the future. And so I knew that about myself. I knew that about myself. And so in that moment, it was like, no, you don't know me. A little bit of a spirit of defiance and a little bit of like knowledge about myself. It's like, no, I'm not going to have an average outcome. I'm not going to, yeah, maybe that's true for the average person with this many injuries, but nothing about how I practice my life aims toward average. And so I can expect something more. And the promise I made myself in that moment was, I will not relent until I get back to some version of what I love. And that was the key component, because there's a realism in there, right? It's like, my lungs are screwed up. My knee is screwed up. I might not ever have the same body. But I can dang well promise myself that I won't stop short of fully loving the point that I reach. And so, yeah, maybe I'll never qualify for another world championship. Maybe I'll never run another Boston qualifying time. Maybe that's gone. Maybe that's forever gone. But I will pursue excellence. I will pursue progress until I can be proud of the man I look at in the mirror. And, you know, that was the promise in the moment that I leaned into. And that was what drove me. And along with it, I like released, to this day, I still refer to everything I accomplished prior to the car accident as my former life. And that happened right in that moment. It was like, I'm not going to live in my own shadow, because when we get trapped in that thinking of, oh, I should be here, I should be here, I used to be here, I'm not where I want to be. It's like every time you have that thought, you're undercutting your own motivation. You're chopping yourself down. And so instead, I just cleared that. It's like, nope, that guy was pretty awesome. He did some cool stuff. But this guy is the guy that's alive now. He's gone. This guy's alive now. He needs to turn himself into something. And so it was a whole rebirth and rebuilding process from the ground up. And that way, I could celebrate and be ecstatic for every bit of growth. I mean, I could be ecstatic, like, ooh, that's as far as I've ever bent my knee. That's the biggest range of motion. Ooh, I walked my first mile. And yeah, sure, my knee turned into a grapefruit, but I walked a mile. And, you know, it's just stuff that would have been taken for granted, not even measured, not even noticed in the previous me. It was like if I didn't run 10 miles in a day, I hardly felt I'd trained, you know, or at least, you know, biked something and ran something. And so just a full reset was a change to my mindset. And then it also opened my mindset to new, more novel experiences, because I was kind of, you know, I came from a running background and a racing background, therefore. And so I was kind of in the run race paradigm. And even though like I branched out to biking races and triathlon races, I was still like locked in the event paradigm. Like I attend other people's events and I pay to attend them. And what the car accident did is it sort of opened this outdoor experience where I started hiking because I couldn't run, and hiking led to, you know, hiking hills led to mountains, mountains led to bigger mountains. Pretty soon I'm getting into technical terrain. Like, okay, now I guess I need to become a rock climber, join the local climbing gym, build climbing skills, apply those to the outdoors. All the time I'm working on PT and leaning into the recovery and the pain of like getting the knee to work again, you know, healing up the ribs and the lungs. And, you know, as it all starts to coalesce that I'm healing and I'm building these new skills, suddenly it's like, oh, I can go out and sure, I'm not that fast, but I can go cruise 30 miles and tag 4 peaks in a weekend. Rad. Like, let's go do that and then tell the students about it when I come back. And just be like, went out and had this awesome weekend, guys. Like, look at the photos. And they're like, whoa, that's really cool. It's like, yeah, it's really cool. You can do it too someday. And so just started down this path. And then I discovered FKTs. And it's like, well, shoot, this is what I'm already doing. And there's a whole world here and a whole community here that I can potentially communicate to and add value to, because I'm interested in this stuff and I'm willing to devote myself almost obsessively to the things I love pursuing. And then that led to the journey to 100, and well, eventually to us having this conversation here. So
yeah, that's incredible. And, you know, just hearing you talk about that and just kind of diving into that version of it, I can tell there's just so much more to unpack, and definitely means we're going to have you back on the show again at some point, because I feel like there's so much to unpack there. But thank you for diving into that. And thank you for jumping right into the 100 Peaks Challenge. So Journey to 100 is a film film that you also did with Athletic Brewing. And it is available for everyone to watch. So that if anybody wants to see that after this, highly recommend checking that out. Really great film. So I wanted to dive into those 50 days and those 23 hours. Just now, this might be another loaded question and something that might require another conversation, but like, talk a little bit about the 100 Peaks FKT and what led you to fastest known time, and just, how much of it goes back to you saying that you were going to go back to some version of doing what you love.
Oh man, so I mean, there's the whole 99 FKTs that happened prior to the 100 Peak FKT in Washington State's 100 tallest peaks, known as the Bulgers list. And that whole journey, like, right, some of it, if anybody bothered to look at the list, which I don't expect anyone to ever look at it, they would notice that early on there was a lot of solo, self-supported, solo, unsupported endeavors in there. It was very much, reflecting back on it, I was going through my own personal gauntlet. I was reproving my own power and agency to be the man I want to be and move how I want to move and accomplish what I want to accomplish, and that I could still do very difficult things very well. And then it kind of evolves as I go along, where increasingly it starts to include other people and more supported endeavors so that people could join me for portions. The Bulgers effort involved lots of other people, and obviously a whole film storytelling element along with it. And it, even now, like, I recently did an effort, and I talk more about it later on, that I brought a film crew along. And it's like I could have just decided to go do it on my own, but instead I went through the extra logistics and the extra difficulty in coordinating to bring a film crew and other people and a teammate and a support person to make a bigger production happen for the sake of it being bigger than just me going and doing another thing. But yeah, as far as the Bulgers itself, I mean, 50 days, 23 hours to climb Washington's 100 tallest peaks. To somebody that's climbed peaks that have trails to the top, they might be like, wow, that's really slow. That doesn't seem that fast. And then you get into Washington, where really only 2 of the peaks have trails to the top, and the bushwhacking is unlike anything you've seen anywhere else in the United States, because it's the only temperate rainforest. And yeah, you can literally be 10 feet away from your partner, and if they get quiet, you have no clue where they are. Yeah, it's like a full-on orienteering experience when you're not on rock and glacier. And then almost every peak has some element of glacier travel or rock climbing to get to the true summit, or combinations of both, extensive combinations of both sometimes. So it's not a straightforward experience that you're just like, oh yeah, I'll just casually go out and rattle off these 100 peaks. It's like you have to be a dialed mountaineer who understands the risks and understands how to navigate and understands how to make decisions and stay on route when you're moving through these spaces. And so that was what I pursued with the 99 FKTs prior, in smaller doses, up to, like, I think my biggest FKT as far as time was like 4.5 days prior to that. So this was kind of a quantum leap for me. But I'm a school teacher, so in a way I think about it like a school teacher. And it's like, well, this is kind of like the perfect cumulative exam. It's got free soloing, it's got glacier travel, it's got orienteering, it's got all this decision making around which peak to climb at what time of year across the list of 100 to, like, optimize speed and minimize risks like fire danger. So it's like all this decision making and all of this planning. And it was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to take on this big final cumulative exam. And the other part is, I don't just do this stuff to finish it. I do this stuff to be out there in the experience of it, right? Because I loved doing this before I even knew what FKTs were. I told that story earlier. And so it was a chance to go spend 50 days, 23 hours doing exactly what I wanted to do. And that was be out pushing myself in nature, climbing on rock, crossing glaciers, seeing beautiful views, feeling fears, feeling exhaustion, feeling like I might be getting lost, like all of the above, the full human experience, the full gamut of human emotion, instead of, you know, whatever it is we feel when we sit and watch another Netflix episode when we should have gone to bed. Like, to me, that's fully living. And I got to go fully be alive and fully live while a clock ran, and I got to climb in some of the most beautiful places in the state of Washington, which in my opinion is one of the most beautiful states in the United States. So that's my quick summary.
Man, it's and I totally agree about Washington. I mean, really beautiful state, and just hearing your perspective on, like, you know, doing something that you love for 50 days, which is like pushing yourself, you know, and being in that experience is also incredible to hear. So, you know, I've done races that are like up to 144 hours. So me trying to wrap my head around somebody going out in the gauntlet of putting themselves in the gauntlet for 50 days, I can only imagine the ebbs and flows and the highs and lows of the journey. And I kind of wanted to dive into knowing, like, if there were any particularly high moments or low moments for you where you either felt truly alive, or on the other side, like, felt like, man, like, I don't know if I can do this, and had a rough go at it. Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, man. I mean, part of the beauty and the nature of climbing mountains is there are so many euphoric moments. I think of a day I was out with Nathan Longhurst. He might actually be on here right now. And we were on top of Bonanza, and it's the highest non-volcanic peak in the state of Washington. It's in a magical climb up there. There was a raging heat wave that was just a sufferfest, like 115 degrees record heat wave. And so we climbed through this insane heat, which was like ridiculous. But then the waterfalls coming off the slab that we had to climb were just raging. And so we got to climb past these waterfalls, and then we find a way over onto the glacier across the moat, and we like climb up and we end run some massive crevasses, and then we cross another moat to get onto the rock climb, and we climb up this really aesthetic climb to the summit, and it's just beautiful up there. And then we realize we have about 3 hours of daylight left. Every trip report we've read, it took the team 6 hours to do the Bonanza Dark Traverse, which is this kind of well-known technical traverse between Bonanza Peak and Dark Peak, another peak that you have to climb in the Bulgers list. And it's like, okay, we've got 3 hours to do what everybody else did in 6. And it was just like, let's go. Like, let's do this. We don't want to be on this traverse in the dark. And so just got in a jam, got in a flow, and luckily Nathan is just a phenomenal climber, like ridiculous. And we both just got in a jam, and, you know, we're doing all these pivot moves over this like razor ridge. It's just like this dance, this choreographed dance in nature, and we're just finding rhythm, tapping the holds, because it's Cascade Rock. It's like not every hold is solid, so it's like you're tapping things, double checking, making sure you're not going to pull anything out, but at the same time you're just flowing and ripping along. And so we just do this like more than a mile of this rock climbing traverse, occasionally easier, occasionally harder. Definitely some full-on fifth-class terrain. And we rattle this whole thing out, and right as the sun is setting, we make it to the summit of Dark. And it's just like, whoa, we did it. It was 2 hours. I think it was 2 hours and 57 minutes, something like that. It took us to do the whole. And yeah, just an unreal experience. Like, talk about flow state and focus. And just like, it doesn't matter how tired you are. It doesn't, like, nothing. I don't know if we drank any water the whole traverse, just like going, just dialed. And then we come off of that just like hyper-focused flow state, and we got this long, it's like alpenglow hour, right? So all the snow is glowing pink. And we've got this long downhill traverse across the Dark Glacier, and then up over this col, and we kind of have this like emotional experience with each other, getting over this really chossy, like almost like boulders glued into mud type steep terrain, which is just sketchy, right? And it's dark at this point. And so we have this like emotional experience with each other as we find our way over it. And then we like reconcile that on the other side. And I think that was a big moment for us as climbing partners to like go through something that was like a struggle with differing opinions and to reach consensus and to close it off in a healthy way and be like, okay, cool. We learned from that experience with each other. And then we had this insane descent, just like dropping 5,500 feet in like 2 miles to get down to the PCT. So just like this insane bushwhack downhill. And, you know, it's dark and we're tired and just like falling tree to tree because it's just so steep you can hardly keep your footing. And there's like pine needles in some spot. And so it's like a slip and slide. And so just hours, it felt like an eternity to just get down these 2 miles. You would think like, oh, 2 miles of downhill, that should go fast. No, it was a lifetime inside of a lifetime. You could have raised a kid and sent them off to college while we were going down this hill. And then we get down to the PCT. And you know that feeling when you've been driving too long and your head starts to drop back and you're like, okay, this just got dangerous. And then you like pull off. We were doing that, but walking, like on our feet, moving, trying to go fast. And we like look at each other. We thought we had 6 miles to get to camp. And we look at each other like, there's no way. Like it might as well be 40 miles away. Like there's no way we're gonna do this. And so we just decide, okay, yard sail it right here into the middle of the trail. We didn't even bother to get off the trail or anything. Just like face in the dirt, boom, down. You know, gear just yard sailed to find our like light sleeping bags, our sleeping kits, and just like yank them over us and out cold. The next morning, Ashley Winchester, my girlfriend, she walked up and finds us. You know, she had like hiked in to be a resupply camp for the between to the next peak because we had to keep going to more peaks. And she walks up and she's like making us coffee and she makes us some breakfast. And finally, after a bit, when we're kind of roused from our I think it ended up being like a 23-hour push nonstop or something that day. She's like, you guys realize you're less than a mile from camp, right? And I don't know, maybe that one story captures the highs and the lows and the full emotional band that just was a regular occurrence during this whole journey. It was just like multiple iterations and stories of just finding a way and persevering and pushing into sleep deprivation and yard sailing it out either after you get back to the van or sometimes before. Yeah, it was a real and full-on experience for sure.
Oh man, that sounds like an experience, and I definitely agree that one story in itself encapsulates like all the different types of moments. So that was a really awesome one to hear, and really similar to some experiences I've had in a different way, you know. But yeah, like that's also hilarious that you were only a mile away from camp too.
Right.
Man, that's what, you know what they say, man. Bad choices make good stories.
True.
So, you know, before we jump into the rapid fire, one of the things we talked about in the green room was the infinity loop. And you have a film coming out.
Yeah. Actually, Nathan and I recently rejoined forces. We partnered up with Kevin Issa and Hayden Lynch. Both of them are great filmmakers out of the Colorado area. Well, Hayden's out of the Wyoming area, Jackson, but they work together quite often. And ever since before COVID, when I did the Rainier Infinity Loop in 2019, which was just a transformative experience, right? It's 144 miles, twice over the top of Rainier. You do each of the half circumnavigations to draw a giant figure eight over the mountain, essentially. It was thought up by Chad Kellogg, so it has this legacy with this great American climber. And ever since I did it back then, I'm like, I'd climbed overseas in South America on some big volcanoes. I'm like, oh my God, this idea has to be extended. And especially when I found out Chad originally meant it to be for more than just Rainier. I was like, I want to go do this on big volcanoes. I want to have the like big volcano version of this. Not that Rainier is small, but it's a whole different world when you're trying to operate at 20,000 feet or 18,000 feet. And I was like, I want to go do this on a bigger volcano. Little known to me, I'm prone to HAPE, high altitude pulmonary edema. I'm in a small percentage of the population that's more prone to that result than other forms of altitude sickness. So I can feel great, right? No headache, no nausea. And then on night 3, I'm coughing fluid out of my lungs for my life. And so, yeah, like some struggle, some suspense there. I went to Pico de Orizaba in December of 2022, this last year, to try it. Like I was just going to do it solo, whatever, just a solo trip on a break as a teacher. Because again, I'm a school teacher. I have to fit my adventures into my breaks. And ended up with HAPE. Ended up coming down because I was sick and coughing fluid up, and it was medically significant, enough to evacuate. And so came down the mountain and like taught myself a whole bunch about how the mechanisms of HAPE work, and about things that can help mitigate them. You can use vasodilators because it's a vasoconstriction feed-forward loop that locks up in the lungs, between the lungs and the heart, that raises the blood pressure so much that eventually blows through your alveolar sacs and fills your lungs. And so I was like, okay, like I can utilize like a vasodilator during acclimatization to minimize the risk, since I'm in this percentage of the population that struggles with this. And that's like, I'm going to bring all this knowledge to bear and run the experiment. And, of course, the most reasonable thing to do when you've failed once before in a clinically significant way is invite a film crew and invite friends so that there's more people there to see you blow up and fail, right? So yeah, brought Nathan along because of just the phenomenal experience of climbing the boulders with him. And another guy that was kind of my man in the chair, to steal a term from the Spider-Man movies. He was my man in the chair during the boulders, the guy I would call if stuff was going sideways. Alden Grant Rhino, he was a huge support. And then Kevin and Hayden. And yeah, it started off really well and then got really interesting for me, and things got hard. And I think I'll leave that one open-ended without a conclusion. And when the film comes out, people can find out how that went and what happened. But about 3 to 5 months from now, I think is going to be the runtime, because obviously Kevin has a ton of footage to sift through from that beautiful volcano. It's the tallest volcano in North America, one of the 7 volcanic summits of the world. And yeah, I'm really excited. I think we're going to have a really solid short film to share with the mountaineering community, the FKT community, the running community. I think this one will speak to a variety of people who have pursued big and difficult things and had them go one way or the other. So yeah, I'm excited. It should be good.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it too. Where will people be able to find that film when it comes out?
Well, hopefully you and I will hop on and have another chat, and they'll be able to find it that way. Otherwise, they can follow my social media. They can follow Kevin's social media and stay updated there. They can check my website, jasonhardrath.com. And then it'll probably be launching on Kevin's YouTube channel, Kevin Issa, EASSA. It'll probably launch on his YouTube channel, and then we're currently in negotiations with Outside for it to also be on Outside TV, Outside Watch. So yeah, there'll be quite a few places to find it when it does finally come out. But yeah, stay in touch on social media and you'll be able to know when that day is coming.
Perfect. And thanks for putting in the plugs for your socials. That worked out perfectly, because that was going to be my next question, or my next thing for you. But before we jump into the rapid fire section of the show, we got another question from Colin A. Kale. Triathlon requires nutrition to be super down for races. How do you go about dealing on FKT?
Colin, I'll say it's a lot harder. You don't get to have aid stations where everybody else has already trucked the food and the resources in for you. Sometimes you got really long stretches between water sources or between possible support if you're deciding to do a supported FKT. So you're carrying more weight, which isn't optimal, or you're cutting it slim and not getting all the calories or not all the hydration that you'd optimally want. Sometimes it's a bit of a stretch. But when things go optimally, the fueling's pretty similar to when you're dialed on your race type effort, depending on the distance of the FKT. Obviously, pacing and fueling strategies differ greatly between a 48-hour push and a 8-hour push. But those variations accounted for, it's very similar to what you train for, and the calorie input your gut can handle at a given pace, and obviously that calorie input changes based on the metabolic output, the pacing that you're following. But yeah, optimally it would be very similar to a triathlon, but in practice you end up stretching things more than you would want to in a structured race like that, just because of lack of convenience.
Man, that's a really good answer, and definitely makes sense that nutrition would be different for whether you're doing an 8-hour push versus like a multi-day push. Before I jump into the rapid fire, one more thing that I wanted to open the floor up to you for was just talking about your relationship with Athletic Brewing, and just to give them a shout.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people have noticed I'm actually currently drinking one. That wasn't an intentional plug. It's just I was sitting down and I was thirsty and I walked by the fridge and it was there, and it's whatever, let's do it. No, they make a great non-alcoholic product. I don't like to put a lot of alcohol in my body. I mean, sometimes I enjoy a nice scotch in the evening, don't get me wrong, but that's about it. And Athletic Brewing, I mean, I started working with them when they were still just shipping to a handful of states, and now they've been voted Times Magazine most influential business, in the top 100 or something, most influential businesses 2 years in a row. They're shipping internationally. They're on their way to becoming $1 billion brewery industry in the industry. It's crazy how much they've grown, and to have been a part of that journey and story. And I'm a school teacher. I teach health and PE. I talk with kids about the decisions they're going to have to make around alcohol and drugs and stuff like that. And so to be a small part, and I don't consider myself a huge part, but to be a small part of the story of the growth of something where someday you're going to walk into a bar, and for these kids that are growing up right now, it's just going to be normal. It's not going to be weird at all. And there's going to be a ton of non-alcoholic options that are really good, high quality options, just as good as the alcoholic options, and that it will be normal and not taboo. People won't be like, why are you drinking non-alcoholic? It's just well, of course, non-alcoholic is just one of the options. To have participated in a change in the culture like that, that's a cool concept for me. That's a worthwhile endeavor. That's a worthy cause. So it's my partnership with them has definitely gone a bit deeper than just oh, cool, somebody to help foot the adventure bill. And yeah, no, it's something I'm happy to participate with, because it aligns with what I authentically value in the life I lead and the people I work with, the kids I teach. So yeah, no, I'm really happy for that Athletic Brewing relationship for sure.
Yeah, thanks for diving into that. I appreciate that. So before we let you go, Jason, I'm gonna dive into the rapid fire section of the show. Like I said, no hard-hitting journalism, just fun questions and food questions. So Jason, are you ready for the rapid fire?
Fire away.
All right. So when you're out doing exercise, music, podcast, or nothing at all?
If I'm training on the road, I should specify running on the road, usually music. If I am running on the trails, usually nothing. Yeah, usually podcasts are reserved for when I'm driving places. That's how my media is usually kind of split up.
Awesome. Favorite book that you've read recently?
Wow, that's tough to narrow down. Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman is fabulous. Daring Greatly by Brene Brown, also phenomenal. And Endure by Alex Hutchinson. Those would be my three recently that I would say are at the top.
Spring, summer, winter, or fall? Favorite season?
Early summer.
Oh,
yeah,
I like that. Not just summer, but early summer. That's a good answer. So now we're going to dive into the food questions. Candy corn, yay or nay?
That's going to be a no. I'm going to pass.
Awesome. Us too. I'm not a fan of coated earwax. Peeps, yay or nay?
Ooh. If you were asking 8-year-old me, it would be a yay. If you're asking me now, no, I'll pass.
You know, we've had people on the show say that they not only like Peeps, but they like stale Peeps. And we actually had somebody mail me and Jason stale Peeps, try them, and he actually tried them live on the show, and it wasn't great. But we appreciate that people have started mailing our business stale Peeps. So if anybody wants to send us candy corn or sends Jason candy corn, I don't know. All right, red velvet cake. Is it a real flavor or is it chocolate with red food dye?
Ooh, this is controversial. No comment.
Love that. You know, people don't realize that no comment is actually an answer that you could do. And I think Jason's the first one in the entire year we've been doing the show that gave us no comment answers. So, all right. So Oreos, the cream or the cookie?
I'm not going to choose one or the other, but the cookie to cream ratio in normal or even double stuff, it's too much cookie and not enough cream. So I would say I favor more cream. Yeah, like I usually take one cookie off and just eat the one side of the cookie and the frosting. So it's like there should be half as much cookie as there is.
I like that answer. I'm definitely more for the cream than the cookie, and I think there needs to be a more optimal ratio for that. So totally agree.
Or what you do, if you really want to problem solve, you just cover the whole thing in Nutella, and then it's fine.
There you go. I mean, I've had peanut butter Oreos, but I've never thought about having Nutella Oreos. That sounds like good endurance fuel. So
I
there you
ate
go.
So many of those during the Bulgers. If we want to circle back to Colin's question about nutrition.
That's a good tie back. I really appreciate that one, and good to know. Jason, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been awesome, and I really appreciate you taking the time, and really glad we can make this work. And looking forward to seeing that film when it comes out, and appreciate you leaving it open-ended and keeping the suspense on it.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I think it tells a very real human story. And I appreciate you having me on, man. I appreciate when you reached out and that we were able to get this on the calendar. And it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure to laugh and spend an evening chatting with you.
Awesome. Well, you have a great rest of your evening, Jason.
Will do. You as well.
Bye.